Welcome to the IoT Travels podcast, where we speak to interesting people in the industry about where their IoT travels have taken them. As well as discussing the industry, we also pick up some travel tips along the way. So today's guest is Darragh Mulligan. Thanks so much for joining me, Darragh. Would you mind telling our listeners a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, hey Alana, my name's Darragh Mulligan. I work as a senior technical marketing engineer at a company called Xilinx based out in City West. I manage business relationships with Xilinx's power partners, and I'm also the technical marketer for the system monitor that's in our devices. So right now I'm working out of City West, but I get chances to travel all over Europe and mainly the west coast of America. Yeah.
That's great. Would you mind telling us a bit more about what Xilinx do?
Yeah, sure. So Xilinx are the inventors and the leaders in the market of FPGAs, which stands for a Field Programmable Gate Array. So it's basically similar to a processor, but it's a semiconductor device that's based on a matrix of configurable logic blocks and programmable interconnects. So essentially, it's a hardware programmable CPU, but much faster. And they can be really good for kind of speeding up applications that need a very specific function. They also do SoCs, which is a combination of these FPGAs I mentioned, with the combination of some ARM CPU processors. So you have the combination of kind of concurrent processors with sequential, kind of like the traditional CPU. But more recently, they've started doing what's called an ACAP, which is an adaptable compute acceleration platform, where they've taken the next step and added these artificial intelligence engines to the mix. So you can get up to 100 times faster than some of the fastest CPUs in the world for certain applications. So it's some pretty complex stuff.
Yeah, there seems to be a lot going on there. So let's get into San Jose a little bit then. I know you've traveled there so many times over the last few years. Can you tell me what you personally think of San Jose and the insight that you've gotten on the location?
Yeah, so San Jose is a really great place to visit, not just for the weather and all the nice restaurants and pubs around the place. There's just so much to do over there. Kind of some of the lesser known stuff that I discovered from going over there was San Jose has a great hockey team. They're called the San Jose Sharks. And I went to my first game with a friend from work about 3 years ago, and it was just an amazing atmosphere and my first ever hockey game. So it was a cool new experience. And a lot of diehard fans at the same time. There's also plenty of areas around San Jose if you want to do a bit of exploring. A while ago, I went north of San Jose to San Francisco and even further up to Sausalito, Napa Valley, and Sonoma. And they got some really nice vineyards up there. And it's a big difference from San Jose or from San Francisco as well, because it's such a built up area. But once you go north, it's actually quite nice. It's like the countryside.
Yeah. So you're based in the Xilinx office in City West, Dublin, when you're not traveling. How do you get to San Jose, and when you're there, how do you generally travel?
So I might travel to San Jose once every 3 months, and it's nice to have that kind of frequency because it breaks up the usual work week of just kind of going into the office and doing your stuff there. I usually take the direct flight with Aer Lingus from Dublin to San Francisco Airport. It's my preferred option because you only have one flight. You don't need to worry about layovers or anything like that. And the flights are usually very cheap. They go from €600 to maybe €1,000. But the only downside then is you need to travel from SFO to San Jose after an 11-hour flight, which is not fun, especially if the roads are filled with traffic. Some of my colleagues will fly with BA. They do a flight from Heathrow, which means you have to fly over to that airport first, but that will bring you straight to San Jose. And also we have a policy that allows for premium economy, but Aer Lingus don't have premium economy. So some guys will go that way. Well, the main reason, one of the other reasons I like Aer Lingus is that I have an uncle who flies with them. He's a captain, and just perchance one time I was flying over, he turned out to be the captain of that flight. So that was a fun coincidence. I got to talk with him, and he tried to bump me up to first class, but sadly it was full. But I still got a free beer or two out of it.
Hopefully next time you'll end up on another one of his flights and get bumped up.
Yeah, I hope so.
When you get to San Jose, where do you generally stay? Because you're there so often, surely you're taking advantage of some sort of hotel reward schemes.
Yeah, absolutely. I think if you're not, you're wasting money. When I'm over there, I'd usually stay in Campbell or Los Gatos, which are two very nice towns. Some great restaurants and pubs in Campbell, and Los Gatos is a beautiful little town where you can just walk down Main Street, and they have, the nice buildings and nice parks, and they have markets on the weekends, which is really nice. So I generally book my hotels through hotels.com, because for every 10 nights you book, you get one night free. And I don't know if you've ever traveled there before, but hotels in Silicon Valley are pretty expensive. So once you get your free night from booking 10 nights, that free night is priced at the average of what you spent. So it's pretty good. You can find hotels that are pretty expensive.
Really good incentive.
Yeah, absolutely. And then we usually book our flights through our travel agent, but you can add your frequent flyer number to them, and you gain your miles that way.
So San Jose is known as the capital of the Silicon Valley. It's right there in the hub of it. Could you give us some insights into IoT activity that you've seen around the area on your travels?
Sure, there's so many different IoT companies located in San Jose. It's such a big area of semiconductors. The previous company I worked for was called Maxim Integrated, and they had a really big focus on kind of low power, high efficiency IoT devices. One of the examples I saw from one of the customers was a remote temperature and humidity sensor application that was put in a white box and left in the desert. So the entire system was solar powered, and this device would spend most of its time in a deep sleep mode to save energy, and then it would wake up every 30 seconds and take a measurement of the temperature and the humidity and then go back to sleep. So there was really low kind of upkeep with it. Like I said, it was solar powered, and it was very energy conscious.
Yeah.
So once it gathered all the data, then it sent it via 3G to its station. And it was really cool to see something that was so optimized and so self-sufficient, we'll say.
Yeah, it worked very independently, it seems.
Yeah.
Tell me a bit more about your experience with IoT, what you have come across while you've been over there.
So with Xilinx in particular, with the customers that I see, all those companies have been very friendly, and it's really obvious how they're driven by the innovation that they see in what they're doing. With Xilinx, I would focus primarily on industrial IoT, which gets into the side of smart manufacturing, smart factories, and smart industry. So what that means in a more practical sense is kind of all these sensors that are being used in these factories, all that data is being merged together and being captured in real time, so that you can command control over these machines and respond to all that data, that huge amount of data that's being built up in the factories. It gives us capability to handle like a variety of different connectivity requirements. Like I said, our devices are programmable, so really any kind of input output protocols or methods that you can think of, you can program our chips to do. But also the last one would be kind of edge compute as well, which kind of pushes the compute factors to right where the information is being collected. And we have that edge compute ability, and things like that could be used for motor controls or computer numerical control machines, stuff like that. Really precise machines.
Yeah, it's really interesting. So I know San Jose obviously is a hub of tech and innovation, but would you call San Jose a smart city?
Absolutely. There are so many smart people in San Jose. Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, it's evident from everything you see around there. One example that kind of comes to mind is that the electric scooter trend that kicked off kind of in the San Jose area, and then we see other bigger cities kind of implementing the same thing. But it's really interesting to see what they come out with and what will be next, you know.
That's so true. Even in Dublin now, the electric scooters are really growing in popularity. See them everywhere.
Right, yeah, they always seem to be the trendsetters, and if it can work there, it can work anywhere.
Definitely, yeah. Specifically on IoT and business, what would you recommend for anyone looking to do IoT business in San Jose?
That's an interesting question. I would recommend kind of reaching out to companies that focus primarily on IoT. You get a lot of companies that IoT is only part of what they do, particularly with the companies that I've worked with. They're ultimately semiconductor companies, but some of the companies that have kind of huge popularity in this sector are ARM. Like I mentioned before, we're integrating their CPU processors into our devices because they're highly integrated and very efficient processors. They require very little power, and they're very efficient. Another one is Zimmer. They focus on kind of full stack cloud development, and work on OpenSec or open source tech and cybersecurities. I've come across them a couple of times with some of our data center applications that we have within Xilinx.
Oh, that's great. Thanks so much for giving us really good insight onto IoT around the area there. Now let's just get into a few quick fire questions and have a bit of fun with it.
All right.
So, what is your favorite restaurant in San Jose?
It's got to be a sushi restaurant. It's called Tommy Sushi. A friend brought me there last time I was there, and at first I was kind of lost because there was no English on the menus, but it is the best sushi that I've ever had. It's just fantastic, and with a little bit of help from the waiter, we were able to get what we were looking for, and yeah, it was great.
They don't make it easy.
No, but that's how you know it's good. They don't need English
Yeah.
on the menus.
What is your favorite pub or bar in or around San Jose?
Ooh. Um, if I had to pick one, in Campbell, there's a restaurant and brewery called Rock Bottom, and they have a huge selection of craft beers, and they brew a lot of their beers on site as well. You can kind of see behind the bar, they have glass windows, and you can see the big casks that all the beers are brewed in. And the last time I was there, I saw a mango and jalapeno IPA on the menu, and of course, two of my favorite things, I had to try it. And it was definitely an experience that you wouldn't get anywhere else. I'm not going to say it was tasty, but I'm glad I tried it.
Yeah, sounds interesting. I think I'd give that a miss. What is your must visit or must do in San Jose?
um, like I mentioned before, if you want to travel, you can go up to the north. You can go to San Francisco. You can visit the vineyards up in Sonoma and the likes of that. Also, if you don't mind traveling, I think it's like an hour drive. You can go to Gilroy, and they've a huge selection of different outlets of lots of known name brands. So if you're there around Christmas time, maybe check out the outlets and you can pick up some Christmas presents or something special for somebody. But yeah, you get some really great deals out there.
That's a great idea. And there's also a great Irish pub in Gilroy as well, the Claddagh, that
That
I've heard is great.
that's right. Yeah, they do great Irish stew there.
Oh, interesting. Um, so what would be your go-to Netflix show to watch on a plane to San Jose?
Um, it's not on Netflix, but every time I've traveled in the last year, it's been part of the plane entertainment, and that's Game of Thrones. Because one, it's a great show, but um, they're also hour-long episodes, and the story is so kind of intricate. You can get invested in it, and the time just flies by then. Like I believe season 1 was on my last flight, and that was 10 hours. It was almost the whole plane flight. And, Game of Thrones is just a great show to get stuck into.
Yeah, great time to have a binge on a series as well.
Absolutely.
Nothing
And
else to do.
yeah, even if you've seen it before, it still has great rewatchability as well.
Yeah. Would you bring your partner to San Jose?
I've thought about it, but while you're over there, you're ultimately there to work. So it's sometimes difficult to coordinate. You don't want your partner just kind of going off and doing their own thing, because you want to do things together. But I've seen plenty of my colleagues do it. They'll bring their wives over, and they're perfectly happy to go off and do their own thing during the day, and then the evenings they'll hang out together. So the option is always there. I just haven't taken it yet.
Yeah. What can't you travel without?
My Nintendo Switch. I don't know how I used to fly without it.
Yeah.
It's just so much entertainment. You've essentially got a game console that fits into your hands, and before that, I was trying all sorts of alternatives like mobile games and games on the airplane, and they just weren't the same. So it really just is, so much entertainment from the Nintendo
Yeah.
Switch that, I can't go anywhere without it now.
Yeah. It's a good way to keep your mind busy as well.
Yeah, movies can get old.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a different kind of activity that you can do that's a little more stimulating for your brain.
Yeah, definitely. So beer, craft beer, wine, or Guinness?
All the above. I like craft beers a lot, but you can't beat a good Guinness either.
Yeah, of course.
When I travel, I try to go with the craft beers, especially because the US has such a big selection of different flavors, all sorts of combinations you've never imagined being put together.
Yeah.
But when I'm in Ireland, it has to be a Guinness. Guinness across the pond isn't known for being especially good either.
No. What is the last book that you read?
The last book that I finished is a book called Crime and Punishment by Fyodor Dostoevsky. It's a very heavy read, but it's also very good, and there's lots of references to it in kind of modern day literature and comparisons drawn to it. It's a very good story, but it took a while to get through.
Yeah, would you recommend it?
Only to my enemies.
Only if you have the time, I suppose.
Sure.
What is your inspirational life mantra for when things get stressful?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think it's important to be able to draw the balance between work and play. I think too often we get sucked into work, and it kind of becomes all encompassing, and it's the most important thing in the world. But leisure time is important as well. Sometimes you can kind of work yourself into a hole where you've been working so hard that you're not even working as effectively as you should be. So I think it's times like that you need to kind of close down the laptop and take a walk, or just relax for a little bit. You don't want to burn out at the same time. So I think it's important to kind of note those moments.
Yeah, balance definitely is so important. How would you like to be remembered?
Wow. As probably as somebody who is good at their job, and somebody who is a nice person.
Yeah,
You can come across some people who take their work very seriously, and can be, let's say, not as friendly as you'd like them to be. But hey, you're always going to get people like that. It's
yeah,
important to remember that we're all in this together.
yeah. It's good to have a bit of both. Good at your job and still a good person.
Sure, there's no reason why you can't do both.
Exactly, yeah. Where do you think IoT will be in 5 years?
Yeah, geez, that's the $1 million question. I think 5G is going to play a huge part in IoT in the future.
Yeah.
5G is an area that Xilinx works in as well, where they have kind of sub-millisecond latencies and reliabilities of 99.9 to the power of minus 6 reliability. It's huge.
Yeah.
So it'd be really interesting to see what comes next. I wish I had a crystal ball to be able to see, but I'm excited to see what comes up.
Yeah, it's exciting.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's been great talking to you. Do you have any idea where your next IoT trip is going to be? I know with the way the world is at the moment, it's probably all a bit uncertain.
Yeah, it's hard to see what's coming in the foreseeable future. But I presume that my next trip will be out to the headquarters of Xilinx in San Jose. Kind of touch base with some of the guys out there and get talking to the partners that we have as part of my job. But yeah, let's see.
It'll be some catch up by the time you get there.
Yeah, it'll be strange because everybody's so used to working from home right now. Hopefully, things kind of clear up with the virus, and yeah, we get back to normal soon, or
Yeah.
the new normal.
Yeah, the new normal, exactly. Thanks so much for chatting with me today and telling us all about San Jose. If any of our listeners wanted to reach out to you, what's the best way to reach you?
Yes, you're welcome. I suppose the easiest way to reach out to me would be LinkedIn. Just search Darragh Mulligan. I'm there, and yeah, send me an invite.
Oh, brilliant. Okay. So thanks so much to our listeners for tuning in. Make sure to join us again next time. And thank you so much, Darragh.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
Of course. And have a nice day.
Yeah, you too. Take care.